What's going on, good people? So check it out. We are coming up to a GP, another GP coming up soon. This week has been really about the Formula One movie, which has been pretty, I don't know how the reviews have been on it so far, but so far I guess people may have or have not been liking it, but Yuki drivers, it was a pretty good turnout. But right now, let's go ahead and let's talk about the actual race that's going to be coming up. We're going to be in Austria, all right? And Austria is the Red Bull Ring, and the Red Bull Ring has had its own fair share of problems, quirks, and spectator problems and track battles. And we already know what happened here last year. Lando and Max got into it. Lando and Max did get into it. This is when Lando supposedly was going to have his backbone improved, strengthened, straight up and down. We thought Lando was going to be able to try to stand up to Max Verstappen from here on out, and we were disappointed because Max did not do that. He backed off of it. Big shout out to Dreads. Big shout out to Bejan. Big shout out Dreads first in the live chat from the family members. Bejan second in the live chat from the family members. What we want to go through is, what is Ferrari going to do? What do we think Ferrari is going to look like? How do we think their performance will be? I can tell you as of right now, I am not very confident in Ferrari and their capabilities going into this race. I am not sure they are going to have a good performance here unless something miraculously changes with the car, the development, the update. I don't even want to say upgrades anymore because we're going to go into that. I don't think any of these situations where we bought updates from Ferrari, I don't think any of you have pretty much left that weekend feeling like, okay, Ferrari's on the right track. I will say Austria is one of the few circuits that we have the least amount of turns when it comes to this GP. So I don't necessarily want to call it a NASCAR circuit because it's not anything like that. I just mean it has very few turns in it. As you see, 10 turns. We know we have far more than that. It is underneath 3 miles, and it is a combination of long straights to the degree and tight turns. Okay, your braking zones that are going to be most challenging are going to be, as you see, you're going to see 1, 3, and then 4. You get a little bit more broader there. I might even include 10 in that, but 9, 8, 7, 6, pretty long radius or constant radius turns. 4 kind of comes out to an increasing radius turn just after the speed trap. That's an increasing radius turn, so that in itself might be a little tricky. Number 1 definitely is really tight. 7 and 6 open up, and of course 8 is more of a sweep than it is a tight turn. With that being said, I think Ferrari's going to have a problem here. We already know that Lewis Hamilton and the braking situation between Brembo and Carbon Industries, we already know the braking situation with Ferrari is something that is questionable. It is something that Lewis Hamilton is trying to get adjusted to. How they're going to proceed as far as improving that situation, we don't know. Another problem we know is car rotation, the rear end of the car, the suspension. They're going to have to figure a way to get that correct. We've already heard complaints from both drivers as far as that car and its characteristics in and out of these turns. And drivers need that capability not only for their confidence to stand on the power sooner than later, but for their confidence to brake late going into the turn so that they can be competitive and carry as much speed as they can into that situation. So no, those characteristics of Austria, of the Red Bull Ring, do not necessarily give us or shouldn't give you a lot of hope or a lot of encouragement or a lot of motivation to think Ferrari's going to come here and just blow the doors off with some miraculous performance. I think they're going to have their challenges here. We're going to see an FP1, FP2, FP3. We do have a standard authentic Formula One weekend, so we will have all 3 practice sessions, a qualifying session, and then the race. Also, do keep in mind, something that I think probably should be changed here is the fact that you have 3 DRSs. I'm not sure that this circuit needs 3 DRSs when it only has 10 turns. I do think that's a bit much for the Red Bull Ring. I think that we could take some of the DRS here, at least one DRS, and give it to another track that we know has far more turns than this, has less capability of passing opportunities, and put a DRS range here. But with a circuit that only has 10 turns, it's under 3 miles, one of the smaller sort of circuits of the Formula One schedule, it has 3 DRS zones. So with that being said, there will be a considerable amount of opportunity for passing, carrying that speed. And of course, I think also here, I'm pretty sure we're going to see some conflict. I'm pretty sure we'll see some conflict as it goes with here. Now, let's take a look. We already know last season, Charles didn't necessarily do well here. He placed 11th. Carlos was in the top 3. There's already a lot of debate. There's already a lot of concern. Miss Dino in the live chat, big shout out to you. Dave Quattro and Galactus in the live chat, big shout out to you. There's already a lot of chatter going around. Did Ferrari keep the right driver in letting Carlos go and keeping Charles? I had even debated to some degree that Charles probably is a bit more upside for their future, but Carlos, to me, was a stronger driver. I think Carlos was a stronger driver in that season. I think he did more concise decisions. I think he did better analyzing in real race time and making those decisions. And another thing, Carlos called his shot. In majority of the time, Carlos calling his shot, it actually did work. Charles is a little bit more temperamental, a little bit more dialed back. He didn't like plan B, felt like plan C, whichever order it went in, whatever the case is. He was offered a plan last week in the race. He really didn't care for it. He offered the plan he wanted. They pitted him and put him on the plan they wanted anyway. And of course, Charles voiced it, but it really wasn't stern. Carlos, in that situation, I think you're going to get a little bit more pushback. If you don't get the pushback, I think Carlos is going to tell you this is the plan he's going on. He's coming in for it. And we've seen Carlos. That's why I call him Big Boss Carlos. He will do that. And that is important. Also, don't forget, track limits here was a very big thing. Track limits is a very big thing. I do like what they incorporated last season, kind of penalized you with the rubble, with the rocks over there. I'm trying to see if that's going to be a case. Also, don't forget deletion. Lap times being deleted left and right was a situation. So we're probably going to run into that same thing this season, especially for our rookies, having those lap times deleted. Now let's get back into a little bit of what we can or what we might expect from Ferrari. We know that so far Ferrari, within so many means, I believe at least 6 out of 10 events, they have bought some sort of update to the track. All right, we got Spain. They bought Spain. Most of this was circuit specific. It's very small, but still they bought an update. Of course, we already know because of the Article 3.15.4 and .5 technical regulations effective from Spain Grand Prix onward, those changes have to be made. We also know when they came into Saudi, they had another package they bought: decambered short cords, top rear wing, single element lower beam wing. Then when we go into Monaco, we had to me, this is a significant package. When we're modification of track rods, suspension fairings, and front board scoop clearance, yeah, that's moderate. That's a moderate change right there going into that. And then as we see, they also went into Imola. And here in Imola, we did scoop geometry, downforce, not totally big, plus most of that circuit specific. Here in Australia, yeah, that was that's a big ass package. This is when they pretty much bought out like 90% of the cars changing, and bow, here you go, here it is. We got push rods, pull rods, upper lower geometry of the wishbones. We got new front brake ducts, compact side pods. We got new top rear wing profiles, engine covers, centerline louvers. This was the introduction of a 90% change Ferrari. And then coming into Bahrain, there was another large package that was introduced: fencing, leading edge wing and reprofiling, diffuser expansion, pillar widgets, updates, all of that. With all that said, that has been a plethora of Ferrari banging updates. And I don't think any of you have said to yourself, I can tell. Fred, to a point, has said that he's pretty much going to stop letting us know the updates that are coming, at least verbally. He can't change what's going to have to be declared on the documents, but at least verbally saying that I don't think I'm going to tell you anymore that updates are coming. All of that being said, when you look at it in its entirety, that is saying that Ferrari has done a lot when they already did a lot, and that amounts not to a lot. I would expect to see a better car at this point of season, knowing everything that they've updated within the season and everything that they had done before the season started. I think we should expect more from Ferrari. I think that we should have seen more from Ferrari. At this point in time, when it comes to Ferrari in this situation, we are looking at Ferrari being right now, 16 points off of third place in the Constructors' Championship. As far as their drivers leading in anything championship, that is not the case. 60% of the season, you've been changing this car. Roughly 60% of the season, you've been changing this car. And we have not yielded or got any gold out of that. We've got nothing but coal for Christmas from Ferrari on that. So, yeah, I don't think that we should expect, or you should expect, anything grand at the Red Bull Ring. I don't think this track is going to facilitate the characteristics of the car and what we know right now with the braking challenges, with the rear suspension challenges, with the rear end not being stable challenges, especially with a track, tight turns coming out. We do have high speed in there. We're talking about, we might see a lot of track times getting deleted from Ferrari. We might see a lot of track times being deleted from Ferrari. We might see a poor performance from Ferrari. And if it's not, has Ferrari figured something out throughout this break weekend instead of just not the movie coming out? Has Ferrari somehow have these guys back at the factory, have the engineers, the designers, have the aerodynamics team, the laminate shop, have they figured out something to do to this Ferrari to encompass all of these updates and finally bring it together to where it's going to start yielding performance where it will allow their drivers to compete for race wins, pole positions, at least on the podium, week in and week out. Right now, Ferrari is living off of a past and old resume, and they have not updated their resume right now. Right now, they've shown us that you can have the drivers, but you don't have the development. If you get a little bit on development, your administration, your team principals, and everybody else is kind of in disarray. Ferrari needs to tie all three components together to finally get on board so that the Ferrari in red means something, because it's starting to mean less and less every season. Less and less every season. We've watched them ruin basically two champions. Sebastian Vettel came in, not great. Lewis Hamilton's in, they're not great. We don't trust. They got fast pit stops. That's fine. Great. But can we get a fast car to come in the pits and out of the pits so we can start winning races? That's what Ferrari wants. That's what Ferrari fans want. And you got to remember, Ferrari being a car production team, that does matter in equates to sales. I know Ferrari is prestigious, but how long can you lose and look bad losing before some people say, I don't want a Ferrari anymore? You got to consider that. You do have to consider that. And they also need to consider what are they going to, if they're going to be bold enough, because that's a pretty big contract when it comes to Brembo and Ferrari. Is there something in there to where the Formula One team of Ferrari can decide that, hey, Brembo components braking is not working for us. It's not working for Lewis Hamilton. Therefore, we're not separating from Brembo from a production car standpoint, but as far as a competitive Formula One standpoint, we might have to go a different direction. The car that we are building right now and the brake systems that you are developing for us are not harmonious. They are not working together. They are not coming together for us, at least. But Brembo being such a big company involved in a lot of competitive sports, I refuse to believe that Brembo cannot develop a braking system for Ferrari that will actually work. I just refuse to believe that. I just don't. Where they supposed to go to Willwood? I got Willwood. Willwood's good for me. Willwood there, I don't know. Where are they supposed to go to? So, yeah, I think Brembo can figure it out. Will they figure it out? I don't know. There's a lot of other things wrong with the car besides for Brembo brakes. I can say that. So you changed 90% of the car and you've been so far 60% wrong. And really more wrong than that if we want to talk about race wins. You're 100% wrong. You got a sprint win by Lewis Hamilton. You don't have a GP weekend race win. And that is what you're going to need. And I think it is far out of reach to even like dream of even trying to get a Constructors' Championship. McLaren is running away with that. That is a done deal. Right now, Ferrari is working on, and a legitimate goal for them is to come out of this season with their fans, spectators, their team, their drivers, team principal, and Fred Vasseur, everybody else that is working hard for Ferrari, to feel that going into 2026, we actually really got a chance to do better than we did coming into 2025. What's up, Ferraris? Bejan in the Super Chat said Ferrari's heads are so far up their asses that they won't admit that they're wrong. Their setups don't work. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of Merck 2022. At what point in time were we waiting for Mercedes to just finally admit this slim down side pod design was a bad idea? It's a bad idea. We thought we had something cool. We felt like we were going to do something different and still be dominant doing it. And therefore, it was going to put us in such a legacy category that it was going to be astronomical. And what did the Mercedes do? They still couldn't admit it. They went into 2023, still didn't barely admit it. And finally, we see them say, you know what? It's probably a bad idea. We wasted 2 seasons on this shit. Like, yo, Ferrari, you're right. Ferrari need to be able to say we were wrong. We got to change this, and it's not what we want to do. And part of moving forward is admitting, this is wrong. I can admit this is wrong, and now we have to look for a new way to move forward in a different direction, maybe altogether, maybe. And altogether is going to be kind of scary, because if you're going to have to move, it's like Mercedes. You're going to have to move in a different direction altogether. That comes with another set of challenges that you haven't been experiencing yet that other teams already have. The other teams are already getting along with this new evolution of car while you tried to do something so crazy and different. Nobody else was doing it. I mean, McLaren and Williams had their variations, but it was nowhere near as drastic as Mercedes, and they abandoned it earlier than later. Your customer teams decided that this is not the direction, and they abandoned it. Beijing, my bad. Beijing, my bad. I just saw that pronounced. When I see that, I apologize. I don't like to get anybody's name wrong. Beijing, I apologize. All right, my bad. But yes, you have to be able to come about face sooner than later, especially if your challenges are going to be tall for going in a completely different direction. So like I said, I am not certain here that indeed the Red Bull Ring is going to be a good place for Ferrari because of the tight turns, because of the situation with the car, because of their development has not really shown us that yet. And we got 3 DRS zones, which could help kind of limit some of that in some ways could pile on you when it comes to the top of the grid with the rest of the team. So we'll see how it goes, but it's almost... We'll see how it goes, but other than that, I wouldn't expect anything great. Miss Dino, get into the Discord and you can verbally work it out with me, and then I'll know. I really do appreciate you being a good sport about it, though. So we'll see how it goes, but that is my prediction for Ferrari. It could change. It could be different. Predictions have been made to be wrong. But as it sits right now, I don't think that I'll be too far off, but I would absolutely enjoy it if Ferrari had a real competitive weekend and some way, somehow put something together that would be long lasting through the rest of the season, not just something that's going to happen at this circuit specifically because of these conditions and this environment. So we'll see what happens, but big shout out to everybody checking in. Big shout out to you all staying tuned into the Formula One season. We're going to be here live going into another race weekend really soon, and I think it's going to be a good race weekend. Now, will Lando and Max Verstappen have their clash? I don't know, but if they do, I'm pretty sure Lando's going to bow out sooner than later and very quickly because he's a punk when it comes to Max Verstappen. All right, we're out.